Hey everyone, how's it going? Elliot here, and welcome back to the second channel. Today we're going to be trying to fix this. It hasn't really got many problems with it. I bought it off of eBay for £10. The seller said it was completely not working at all, but I'll tell you why that does actually work in a second. But the biggest problem I have is that this button doesn't work, and this is track skip. Sometimes it works if you press really hard, but that is not ideal. So, yeah, I bought this on eBay. As I said, it was £10, and the seller said it completely doesn't work, which is something that sellers often say. They won't give you the exact reason as to why they think that might be, which is understandable. It's probably a 75-year-old lady just trying to clear her attic. But if you have a look in here, you can see there's some corrosion. You might be able to see the corrosion. Hang on, let me turn this light on. Can you see the corrosion? And also down there? Probably not. It's not really that noticeable, but it's enough that stops it from working nicely. So we definitely need to give it a clean. The only way to get it to sort of work nicely is just, roll the batteries around, which is obviously just removing some of the corrosion. But anyway, so this is really cool. I liked it because it has a clear window in the front there. I really like that. It means you can see the lovely artwork of your CDs, which is usually quite nice. So we can whack that in there, close the lid. I've got this little cassette player speaker thing, cassette speaker, which a lot of people ask me about, and I bought it off eBay. It's not something that was made recently. It's, probably 20 years old or something, maybe even more. So now we can just press play, and it will turn on, and it will start spinning, so clearly, it does actually work. By the way, apologies if I'm rushing through this. I just recorded me talking about all of this, and then taking the back off, and then I accidentally formatted the SD cards. Don't ask. But yeah, as you can hear, it's working. But this track skip button isn't working. It skips backwards, fine. You can hear the laser sliding across. But yeah, it's not skipping that way. But if you press really hard, oh, there we go. It's skipped. But obviously that's not ideal. By the way, shout out to Jamie Spades, buddy amazing. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix that. Now this doesn't seem like a big problem, but if you're like me and you quite enjoy, retro tech and all that kind of stuff, walking around and having this with you, it's just going to be completely impractical if that doesn't work, let alone the fact that it's this big and you can just listen to your phone. But having that track button, that track skip button not work is just an annoyance. So we're going to try and fix that. Now I'm not going to replace the whatever switch is in there because I don't have any replacement switches, and I don't think we're going to need to. We're also going to need to give the battery contacts a clean, but I know this doesn't sound like the most interesting of videos, and it probably isn't going to be, but a lot of people will have a similar issue to this. A button might not work, or the battery contacts might be a little bit dirty. So I guess this is helpful for everyone. Now, one thing I was talking about in the previous attempt to film this was the fact that on the back, it's called a personal CD player. It wasn't called a Discman. Discman was exclusive to Sony. That was actually their product name. Just like the Walkman is not the name for a portable cassette player, the Walkman is the name for Sony's portable cassette player. And also, just like a Hoover is not a Hoover, it's a vacuum cleaner. Hoover is actually a manufacturer of Hoover. All these things which not many people care about. Now, the other thing I was talking about is that personal CD player is kind of amusing, the fact that they're advertising it as actually personal. The reason for that, at least I think, and you can feel free to correct me, is, well, obviously it's you're meant to listen to it on your own. It hasn't got a speaker built into it. But the reason they're sort of highlighting that is because previously, before the sort of the 70s and backwards, music was 100% a format for everyone to enjoy together. You'd sort of sit round the log fire together with a bourbon in your hand. The kids would be there, the wife, the gran, the father, all the people, the dog, the gran. Oh my god. And you'd all listen to music together on your wax cylinder. But now, obviously, well, fast forward to the 2000s when they made a big deal out of it being personal. You can listen to it on your own. And that's why in 1979, when the TPS L2 came out, there's 2 headphone ports in there and a hotline button to speak to the other person listening the music it's because it was sort of antisocial to be listening to music on your own. So anyway, let's take that lid off, and you can see the inside of it is fairly basic looking. What's kind of cool though is you can see the workings of the anti-shock sort of thing, which is basically just some sort of rubber standoffs that the whole laser and spinning motor assembly sits on, and that just sort of absorbs the shock. And because everything's moving together, in theory it shouldn't track skip or anything like that. It shouldn't skip the track forward. So what I'm going to do is zoom in the camera and I'll show you the problem with the battery terminals, and then we'll hopefully fix the button, and it should be a nice quick fix. So there is the spring for the minus side of the battery, and as you can see, it's pretty corroded. It's not too bad. It's definitely not going to be irreversible. We should be able to clean it up quite nicely. Let me see if I can get it out. There we go. The back of it's pretty nasty, but honestly, we've got it working, so I know that just fixing this is just a sort of a reliability sort of fix. Oh, it just fell off. Yeah, see, that's another thing with with solder joints that have been corroded, is that they're pretty dry. So that's fun. We can fix that. And also, this side. Let's try not to rip this one off this time. It actually looks like it's covered in hot glue. No, it's not. The hot glue just fell off. Right, well, the whole thing's falling apart. So far, I've only broken it more. Oh, God. Right. Okay. So that one's still intact, but I'll just go over the solder with a soldering iron because I'm going to need to anyway. But yeah, see, it's a little bit corroded. Not too bad. And then the other thing we're going to take a look at is this button here, but I think I'm just going to clean all of them, and to do that I'm just going to use a little bit of isopropyl on a Q-tip and drop it in there and give it a nice clean. Okay, so let me go and fire up my soldering iron and we can have a go at, well, actually no, let's clean these first because that's probably the first step. So I'm just going to be using some IPA. Some people will say vinegar and stuff, but I don't think this one's actually too bad, so I think a nice bit of isopropyl should just do the trick, which as you can see, it definitely is. When it's like really, really bad, you probably want to like neutralize the corrosion, the acid or whatever, but I don't think this one's going to need it. Okay, so there's that one, all nice and clean. The only thing that is a little bit still destroyed is this big solder blob here. That could really do with being going over again, which I probably will do. But it shouldn't affect the usage too badly, and it is obviously still working, but I think it's probably worth going over that. Let's have a look then at the positive side, the battery terminal, and yeah, this one's not too bad either. It's quite an interesting method of getting that contact on there. It's just sort of two wires to to touch the top of the battery. I've never actually seen that before. Usually it's a little sort of metal pad, but yeah, that's quite cool. The silk screens come off a little bit, but that's kind of expected when you get a lot of corrosion on there, but it doesn't matter. It's all one thing, so it's all good. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go and get my soldering iron, turn it on, and we'll go over this point, and obviously we need to reattach the other side. So a lot of people ask me about the tools that I use. This is the TS80 soldering iron. I think it's made by Miniwave or something like that. I'll leave the links to them in the description if you want to check it out. And then this is the ES120. And they're really nice little things. I really, really like them. So, okay. So we can put a little bit of flux on this point here. That should be enough, maybe a little bit more. And we can reflow that. Hopefully it shouldn't be too difficult, but it is covered in oxidation and corrosion, so it might be a bit tricky. Turn the soldering iron up a little bit maybe. It's a pretty quick soldering iron, although they have come out with a new one now, which I think is the TS80i or TS80P, and which heats just a lot quicker. There we go. That is a nice shiny bit of solder right there. Really happy with that. There, it's not too bad. I've been wrestling with this thing for the past 20 minutes, trying to get this wire to reattach itself to this contact. But I think the wire itself is so sort of corroded that it keeps not only breaking on me, but it's also the wire inside is black. And that's the case for the whole way. I've cut loads of it off, and I'm not even sure it's going to be long enough to fit in there anymore. So what I think I'm going to just do is solder a new wire across here, because it's just an absolute nightmare, and no matter what I do, I'm not getting a good contact. Okay, and yeah, it's even black all the way back to here. So look, that just snapped off in 2 seconds. So we're going to need to clean up that, and hopefully we can poke a new wire through that hole and clean it all up and attach a new wire, because this has been an absolute nightmare. What an absolute mission. Right, I'm going to go over some of the plastic where there's bits of corrosion still just stuck in the corners with a little toothbrush. Nothing too substantial, but worth doing to avoid all the crud getting on the laser or something. Perfect. Okay, because all of the silkscreen just immediately flaked off, the solder has stuck to the actual trace on the PCB, but that's fine. It's going to give it a really nice, good connection. So we can set that back inside its little part, like that. Sweet. Okay, right, we can secure this new wire back down with some caps on tape. I don't know where the little bit of foam went, but it's not really that important. Get rid of the old hot glue. There we go. That keeps that from moving around. Now, I suppose we need to test if the battery contacts are still working. So if we pop the disc back in here. So this little piece of plastic here presses down on a button on the PCB to tell you that the door is closed, which means it's obviously safe for the disc to start spinning. And it should, if we press play, work, which it is, as you can see. So the battery contact is still working perfectly fine. Now, what we need to do is fix this skip button because it's not working. Which one is it that does that? Okay, so it should be that one in there. There we go. So the back one works fine. It's going through the, the track skip, but the forward one doesn't. So what I'm going to do is drop some isopropyl alcohol down into the switch, and we should be able to just give it a nice clean. So I'm just going to remove the disc. Okay, like that. So what we actually want to do is get a nice big drip on the end of the Q-tip and drop it on top of the button, which I've just done. And then I'm just going to sort of press it a few times, and that should hopefully get the isopropyl alcohol to go inside, which it is. I can see that that level there is going down. Okay, and we can just sort of clean it a little bit. Now, what we shall do is pop the disc back on again. And we can hold that button down, and we press the button. Oh, we need to press the play one first, which is that. There we go. It's working perfectly. So that is absolutely excellent. Nice, easy little fix there. Okay, so let's remove the CD, and we can pop the whole thing back together. I know this isn't exactly the most advanced of fixes, but it's still something that I was going to do anyway, and I just thought it's the second channel, might be a bit enjoyable for you as well. So let me put the whole thing back together. Also, there's actually still little bits of crusts of corrosion that are just sort of attached everywhere. Okay, so let's give the thing a final test. I'm so happy with how it looks. I am a massive, Massive fan of this orangey sort of yellow. Okay, so I've plugged in my speaker, popped the disc in, and if we press the play button, that should start it off. Still need to remember how to actually use this whole thing. There we go. Now we've got this ASP, which I think is the anti-shock protection. So if we turn that off, in fact, let's have a listen. So if we, there we go, accurately just tried it out. So that is working. Now let's turn that off and press play. Oh no, that's paused it. There you go. So now I've turned this off. Let's try and hit it. Wow! Look at that! It actually 100% is working. I'm not actually sure what it's doing, but it's definitely working, whatever it's doing. That button there works perfectly now. So happy with this. There we go. And look, it's like loading the anti-shock protection. I don't know how that's even working or what's going on. The track skip button works perfectly, as you can see. Absolutely so happy with that. Look at that. What an absolute beast. I really hope you enjoyed this little video. Nothing too substantial, but a nice little fix for an item that I will definitely get some use out of. I hope you've all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. And if you're new to the second channel, please consider subscribing. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Goodbye.